today I'm going to be ranking all 21 maps that are a part of the murder mystery game mode on the Hypixel Minecraft server, or network, whatever you want to call it. Why? I guess it's because it's a game I'm constantly on, and it's honestly kind of just like my child at this point. An old friend gave me the idea to me about a year ago, and I've always wanted to do it, but just needed the time, so here I am. I expect another horror-related video out next. It'll be a compilation video with multiple games, so look forward to that if you like that. So just a heads up, there are only 19 maps actually available at the moment. We'll get into the ones that aren't playable anymore, and I'll provide gameplay and screenshots if I have them. The things that will account for the actual rankings will be 1. The number of hiding spots, 2. The gold quantity, 3. Any features and traps that the map may have, if any, and 4. The size. I'm going to really quickly go over why each one of those previously mentioned things are important, and I guess I'll start off with saying that I think hiding is actually a really bad strategy in murder mystery. The murderer will almost always find you, since they get to see the location of everyone at the end of the game. The only thing that can help is if the map is large, because they'll have to run across the entire map, and then we have 30 seconds to see everyone. And I'd say it's just kind of just boring, since you don't really get to do anything. Spectators will probably also just find it boring, because no one wants to watch some dude sit in a corner and wait for the murderer to find them. What fun is that? The gold quantity is important, because it determines how many innocents will actually get to play the game, instead of just running around trying to find gold. Traps and features can make or break a map, and some are really just pointless. The overall size is also extremely key, because no one wants to run around a map trying to kill everyone when it's a gigantic one that will require you to sprint around just to get anywhere. Now that I've actually described the criteria for our rankings, let's get into the actual ranking. So the first map, Ancient Tomb. I think it's a really good map, and it gives a good, and I'd say even great amount of gold to those who are actually moving around enough. It's small, so you'll be fine anyway, actually, I'd say. I'd even say it excels in terms of gold. The map features 2 areas where players can, like, give gold to this goddess Kali. And depending on the amount, you can actually get curses or blessings. This can be your chat getting spammed, it can spawn spiders to attack you, it can give you a bow, one with 1 shot, one with infinite ammo, or you can even triple your gold. So instead of getting 1 gold, you'll get 3 when you pick one up. Some people will probably dodge this map as a murderer, since it can be easy to get a bow as an innocent. I've actually probably dodged it too, since I kind of just want a stress-free game when I play, but I can't have that when people are running around with infinite bows. It's not that common, but when it does happen, it's pretty stressful. Other than the gifting system, though, the map really doesn't feature any other interactables. It totally makes it one of the most unique in the queue in that regard, though, because of just how random the gifting system is, and the blessing system, I guess you could say. The map is on the smaller size, but it features 2 floors, and there's bridges above to maneuver around. There are pretty much little to no spaces in this map to hide, but, I mean, there is one, but it requires a really good time jump to reach. With that being said, though, I'd say the overall experience is pretty positive, so I'm gonna give it a B. Next map up is Aquarium. I really enjoy this map because I think it looks good, and I think it's the perfect size for a murder mystery map. It's not too small, and it's not too big. It takes place inside an aquarium with massive tanks and many different enclosures. There's only one spot to really hide, and even then, no one hides there, which is actually kind of perfect. There's a trap that will insta-kill you via Shark Week if you aren't careful. And the game technically gives you multiple chances, assuming it hadn't been activated previously. Basically, each hit of this button will degrade more and more of the platform until it disappears altogether. And anyone that, unfortunately, is on that platform when it disappears will land into a shark mouth, killing them. There's also another trap next to some stairs that really isn't as dangerous, but you can still get some people every now and then if you feel like using it. You can also buy potions at 2 different spots on the map. Depending on the amount of gold you give, you can get different effects. All the possible effects are next to the button on a sign where you can buy the potions. And it's one of the only maps where you can get the blind justice achievement, which requires you to kill the murderer while blind. Can't say I've used any of the potion tops on this map besides trying to get the damn achievement, but it's there, I guess. Gold is also nice and at a stable rate on this map. For me, I think it's an S tier. It is definitely one of my favorites in the entire game. Archives is the next map, and it's a really basic one. But there's something about the fact that it's so basic and easy to understand that it makes me absolutely adore it. The map is basically a big circle that you can run around in with little exhibits on the side here and there. There's also a large lobby that pretty much everyone goes to. You can go up to some stairs inside said lobby and it will lead to this big Egyptian themed exhibit. In here you can give 2 gold ingots to some hoppers next to a pyramid to set them on fire. Directly below it underground in this little jungle exhibit are 2 more hoppers. Once these are powered, a little secret passage will open. The secret passage allows players to basically cut through the circle instead of having to go all the way around. Other than that though, there are no other interactables. You can fall into a little end portal in an exhibit if you count that, but it'll kill you, so that's not very fun. There's always someone that falls for it every time. I don't really understand it. Gold is pretty tight sometimes if you stay in the lobby area, so I sometimes recommend going out into the ring, but that in itself is a death wish, so perform that at your own risk. The rooms lining the map are really the only spots one can hide, and the ones that are notable are all really obvious if you just give it a quick glance when passing by. Overall though, I'd say it's a really good map to start off with, and it's just classic fun. So for me, Archives, it's gonna get an A. Archives Top Floor is the sequel to the first Archives map, if you can believe it. This map is basically a rectangle with an upper floor that sorta looks like a library. You can get up higher in this library with a ladder placed on one of the center bookshelves. That's the only way up too. So it makes for some pretty rough murderer games if you don't get the people up there. Basically, you have to go up the ladder to get up, and if someone has a bow while they're up there, they can just shoot you while you're climbing the ladder. So you have to be extremely careful. The map features a good amount of gold spawns and an improved exhibit range, which gives a lot more potential to hide. There's a fake painting that you can hide behind that everyone and their grandma knows about. And there's also a pit directly behind it, so some people just fall to their deaths going there. At the library part, there's an astronaut selling a Mars potion for 4 gold ingots. It gives jump boost too, which doesn't really do anything on this map, and it's honestly kind of just pointless for 4 gold. The map is on the smaller side and is about as big as the first Archives map. I'd say the best part of this map, but also the sweatiest part, are the numerous teleporters scattered around. They'll allow the player that stands in it to teleport to another teleporter at the cost of 5 gold. It's totally overpowered from getting away from a killer. Pretty sure it'll always teleport you to the same one though, so I guess there is a little bit of map knowledge that can be useful there. The potion shop and overpowered teleporters are the only things keeping this from being an A, so for me it'll fit nicely in B. Cattleridge is the next map. Cattleridge was a limited time map that came out earlier this year for Easter holiday. It features a large field of soul sand that is surrounded by a large barn, a house, and some other structures that farms would have. The gold spread was great, but the worst part about this map, that completely blows the whole thing out of a good spot on my list, was the soul sand. If your player would land on the soul sand, you would be afflicted with slowness for several seconds. If you're getting chased and need to get away, you better pray you can find a good way around the soul sand. Otherwise, you're pretty screwed. At a little chicken coop next to the barn, you were able to purchase eggs for 1 gold that would spawn several chicks wherever the egg landed. It made for some pretty weird and funny moments where there'd basically just be a bunch of chickens in the map circling each other or getting stuck in a pond next to the coop. In the barn, there's a trap that would send a tractor at a player, killing them instantly. No one really got killed by it though, so it kinda sucked. I wasn't able to play it for that long since it only lasted about a month, and I don't really remember any hiding spots other than maybe some hay bales in the upper floor of the barn. Even then, they look pretty easy if you just looked, so if it does come back ever, just take a peek and you'll get anyone that's in there. I think there was a trap where you would be suffocated by hay bales behind the house, but I really don't remember. Honestly, the soul sand just ruined the map for me, and the traps were really bad. On its own though, I also think it was just uninteresting to look at, and it was pretty forgettable as well. So Cattleridge for me, it'll be a B. It'll be a D tier. Cruise ship is an altogether decent map with 2 floors to access. The boat you are on is sinking, and a storm threatens your very existence, more than you would think, sometimes too. The lower accessible area is a big casino that holds 2 games. One is basically a game that baits you into using a macro, which is bannable, and the other is basically a 360-degree whack-a-mole. They give decent gold rewards for performing well, but since there are only 2 of them, you will need to be patient if someone is already playing. The gold that spawns naturally is sufficient enough, honestly. You can use the casino machines to play a pointless game of slots that doesn't really do anything and it makes an awful noise. The map is honestly a pretty nice size though, and it's totally playable. Both ends of the ship don't have much to offer, so unless you're being chased, nothing is really exciting by them. The worst part of the map though is the storm event. During each storm, the game will warn players to get to the lower level of the ship as soon as possible, but only give them about 3 seconds before 5 strikes of lightning will activate. So, basically the game doesn't really give you an actual chance if you're in the middle, on the top layer of the ship. The lightning will strike nearby or onto players and will kill them instantly. Don't even try to hide under something on the surface because that won't work all the time. It's also important to note that they will increase in frequency too as the game progresses, if I'm correct. I really hope you don't have a bow or the murderer too, because you will get no mercy from them. I can't count how many times the game was decided on the storm's stupid random striking. It's not exactly fun, but I like the idea they were going with. Cruise ship overall is a C-tier map for me simply due to the horrendous lightning addition. It could really use some work from me. Darkfall is a small map that kinda reminds me of Town of Salem in a lot of ways. I don't know when it was released, but if it wasn't for Halloween, I would be pretty confused. It places you and everyone else in the middle of a town with 2 notable locations, a graveyard and a church. Inside the entrance to said church, you can spawn a zombie that will attack and kill anyone that goes in it. It's easily avoidable, and if you just run away, you'll be fine since it can't leave the room it spawns in. Players can buy torches at several NPC characters in the town and place them on coal patches here and there in the village to start fires. These can hurt pretty bad and even kill a player if they stand in it for too long, but honestly, it's not exactly dangerous. You just gotta move out of it. But it's a fun addition, I suppose. You can enter most of the houses in this map, and they can offer some pretty nifty hiding spots if you're into that sort of thing. It's a nice little spooky map that gives a decent amount of gold. It's pretty simple in design and playfield, and the interactables could be better, but I think everything else makes up for it. So, for me, Darkfall will be going into A tier. Now, the next map, Goldrush. I am not a fan of Goldrush. Not many people are. It's an extremely large map that has nearly every house accessible. The map gives way too many hiding spots and can ruin the game if you're the murderer. Real quick, imagine killing every player in this map and losing the game simply because the last player was upstairs across the map from you in, like, just some random building the entire game. The entire game. It's not fun for anyone, really. The map can allow you to buy a horse with randomized stats for a small sum of gold, too. This can be really dumb, though, since the speed is random, but also the fact that the murderer can sometimes just get a really fast horse and kill a bunch of survivors with relative ease if they so desired. Dodging bow shots could also be easy if they got a good horse. But I guess this could also be seen the other way around, though. Innocents can buy a horse and just run away from the murderer for minutes on end, and it'd actually probably be better if the game just limited 1 horse per player and you couldn't buy more for the rest of the game. That'd be a really easy nerf. Or even an increase in price for every time you buy one. I think that would do the same thing, even better maybe. It's a good thing that horses will despawn after a couple of minutes or so as default. Players can also purchase TNT inside one of the buildings in the center, which can be used to blow up cacti at 2 locations on the map. One will pretty much guarantee a bow, while the other will give about 5 to 6 gold. The system is also flawed as other players can take the gold from you if you aren't careful. The other use for TNT is to blow up a secret passage that will give you one of 2 codes needed to unlock the bank. The bank first needs to be opened via a button that can only be reached with a bow shot. Once that button is pressed with an arrow, the doors will open to reveal a vault with a 4-digit code. The other code is located 2 buildings away in a chest accessible at the start of the game in like this little jail cell that's open. Once both codes are entered, the vault will open, revealing about 4 to 6 bows worth of gold. Players will have to use TNT once again though to obtain said gold. I hope you can see where I'm going with this though. The map is 90% of the time extremely hard for the murderers. Players can sometimes get a ton of gold, and some can just run away from you on a horse if your start is bad. Basically, if you don't start off good on this map as a murderer, you kiss your ass goodbye. That's why this map is just pretty bad. I can't say I've gotten many consistently fun matches on this map, and I'll usually dodge this one if I can, so it's going into F tier. For me. Fuck you, Goldrush. Headquarters is another map that is really good for beginners, I'd say. It's a large open building with a staircase leading up to the second floor, and also an elevator shaft with a ladder that does the same thing. And what I think is a lobby is a vine that you can also use to get up to the second floor. It also has a good chunk of places to hide and a great sum of gold. The size is a bit on the smaller side, but it's big enough so it's easy to memorize and it's fun to maneuver. Unfortunately, the map has nothing to interact with at all, so you're basically just running around finding gold and trying to uncover the murderer. I don't think there's anything really wrong with that, but to some people I guess it would be. The hiding spots can totally ruin your game if you aren't prepared though, so make sure to clear everyone out of them early on so you don't have to scrounge them later when you only have 30 seconds on the clock. I think the overall look and shape of the map is also just nice and it's pleasing compared to others. It's kind of like Archives for me in Darkfall. It's solid, basic, and gives sort of a classic feel to it, so I'm going to be giving it an A. Hollywood is a map that I know not many people like, but for me it's not really that bad. The map is a long, narrow street that holds several buildings and houses next to it. The whole place is a Hollywood movie scene. The map has 2 spots where you can buy toy guns that will stun anyone hit by them for about 2 to 3 seconds. It shoots a little projectile that can go about 6 blocks before dissipating, basically. It doesn't do much, but I guess if you can land a hit, it can help. There's also an explosion that will cover the entire street after a certain amount of time and will change the map for the remainder of the game in little small ways. The game does an annoying siren before it happens though, so you should be fine and it shouldn't really kill you unless you're not paying attention. I find the map to be pretty, and I love that it will actually, change the map after the bombing happens. I think it's a really cool detail that I don't think any map besides this mountain one does. The only negative part of the map is that players can reach the roof of a certain building, and it's only accessible via a ladder. If you're the murderer, you better hope the detective isn't up there, because you probably won't be able to get them without crazy luck and dodging. I'd imagine that's the reason this map is dodged by so many players in the first place. The gold spawn is quite low for this map, but maybe it's because I'm on that damn roof most of the time, so I don't see all the gold that does spawn. I think that overall though, I think it's a B tier. It's not a very high one, it's not a very low one, but I think B is a nice spot for Hollywood. Hypixel World is a nice and fun map that is the Hypixel network equivalent of Disney World, or Universal, or X theme park, wherever you're from. There are roller coaster rides, a haunted mansion, and other recreational areas that one would expect from an attraction. The map has a monorail system that goes across the entire map in 2 different sections. This can actually be quite horrible to go against when playing as murderer though, since it forces the murderer to run around to the other side of the map to the drop-off station in order to kill the innocent, and it can waste a lot of time. There's also a roller coaster on one side of the park that doesn't really do anything, it's more just for fun. The haunted mansion to me though is really cool. It holds 3 doors that lock once a player is inside for a certain amount of time. Each door will do one of 3 things without repeating. It'll either 1. Drop you outside the map, killing you. 2. It'll drop you into an underground lava room and you'll have to parkour to leave it. If you fall into the lava, you'll die, so don't do that. And 3. It'll open the door and it'll give you gold. I'm not sure how it works. It might multiply your gold, or it might just give you a some amount of gold. I'm not sure. So basically the Haunted Mansion, it's a gamble that includes your life. It's a neat little area, and I admit that I sometimes use it if I'm bored enough. I think the gold in the map is really heavy in certain areas, but it's also extremely low in others and can use some patching here and there. There is only one good hiding spot though, and that's inside a floating leather costume in a booth. Everyone goes there, so I can't say it's amazing. I'd say the map is still good fun, so I'm gonna give Hypixel World a B. Next to Hollywood. Library is a good map that added potions to the chaos that is Murder Mystery. The map has 5 locations where you can trade in gold for one of several random potion effects. These effects are blindness, slowness, speed, invisibility, and invincibility. You can totally see how some of those would break the game if you're lucky enough. It's also the map that is needed for the extremely difficult Quench achievement that requires you to drink 16 potions in one game. It's harder than it looks, given the amount of time a game lasts and how long the potions will last. Trust me. I've been playing Murder Mystery for a while now, and I still don't have it, and I'm honestly ashamed of myself for that reason. You can also do the Blind Justice achievement on this map if you're lucky enough. It's harder though, so perform at your own discretion. Other than the potions, the map doesn't really offer much. You can fall off the map in several locations, so if the innocent team looks a little small, that's probably the reason. There are virtually 0 places to hide on this map, and there's plenty of gold to go around. Overall, I'd give Library an A. I think it's a little easy for innocents, but I'd say it's still fun enough for an A. Now, Mountain is the definition of a boring map. The map is a large stretch of land that forces you to climb up a huge mountain, take a buggy and gross-looking cable car, or go through a relatively easy tunnel that will be your demise if you're unlucky enough to be going through it with the killer. It's honestly the best route, though. The map will spawn gold down the mountain, so you're forced to go back down and get gold and climb all the way back up if there's none at the top. Hopefully, the final innocent isn't on the other side of the map if you're the murderer, because now you'll have to run all the way there. It's kind of like Goldrush in terms of size, I'd say. There are plenty of hiding spots on the map, but no one ever uses them, probably because the map already sucks enough and no one wants to sit around. Gold size is the only good thing, but even then the location is just awful, because you'll have to move down the mountain to get some. The map features 2 locations where you can buy snowballs that are purely cosmetic fun. They don't add any gameplay variation or depth. They can like push you if you hit someone enough, but I don't think it's actually changed the game in any notable rounds. There's also an avalanche event that will rain snowballs down on you, but I feel like they don't actually do damage or hurt you. The game makes it extremely obvious that you need to go inside to survive, but the problem is that they're really easy to dodge on their own, so I wouldn't even be worked up about them. They can also leave patches of snow wherever they land, and it can get you stuck here and there, and it's pretty annoying. Mountain is F tier. It's more annoying than anything else, and I honestly don't think I have to say anymore. I dodge it constantly. San Peratico version 2 is by far my favorite map in terms of looks. It goes really well with shaders, and its colors are really fun to look at compared to some other maps like Darkfall. But looks aside, the map has a slow gold quantity but manageable one. There aren't many hiding spots, and the ones that are available are actually not well known. The map features 2 shopkeepers that will allow players to swim in the map's numerous water locations without taking damage. If a player doesn't have the boots on, which they get from the shop, they will take damage over time until they die or they get out of the water. It's never really that big of a threat though if you just go swiftly and get out in time. You'll regenerate any damage taken from the water too, so just be patient and you'll be okay. There are also 2 bridges that can be raised for a short period that will make anyone on them fall into the water. This can be used to strategically get away if you're lucky. Basically, you kind of just have to like jump on it and like spam your spacebar while it's going up, and then jump to the other side before the bridge goes all the way up. It'll come back down though, so don't stick around. The map is on the smaller side, but I think it works well in most cases. The only bad thing about this map is the boat on the shore. This boat may only be accessed by slowly swimming over to it and getting on some ladders on the side. And if you're a killer, this forces you to trek through dangerous water, and possibly even getting shot if you want to get on said boat, let alone get a kill. They can try to throw knives at the boat, but it's not always going to work. And to me, this map ranks really high, just because of how fun it is to just look around the map itself. It's really colorful and with shaders. It's really gorgeous. San Peratico is getting an A for me. Skyway Pier is a decent map for beginners, but for those more in tune with the game overall, it's kind of just boring to play. You're placed on a pier overlooking a vast and pretty ocean. The map has a good amount of gold spawn and quantity, but it lacks useful features and or traps to use it on. There are 2 locations in the map where players can buy ice cream for 2 gold, and I can't say I've used it enough to know all the effects, but I do know I've gotten speed and invisibility for 8 seconds on the 2 I've used recently. It's only 8 seconds, which isn't enough, and I'm really not sure if there are any other negative effects. If that's the case, it's kind of just some stupid RNG thing that doesn't last enough. There's also a trap on the bottom level of the map that never really gets used due to the little small hallways like right next to it that people can just walk through to get around it. It's a really bad trap and it costs a lot of gold. There's also a little room on the top that holds a zombie that says, like, spend blank amount of gold and the zombie will attack whoever the murderer is in that room. So, what's bad about this is that the murderer is never usually nearby it or in the room for it to actually be useful. The murderers will read the text, know that that's not a room they want to be in, and they'll just avoid it. For however much gold it is, it's not worth it. I guess if you're lucky enough and have enough people around, maybe you can get it to chase after the murderer, then you just gotta shoot them and kill them and then you'll win the game. But if not, I guess you can use it to see who isn't the murderer, which helps. You can just avoid those that you don't know. But I think for the amount of gold and like the actual like cases that it's actually been helpful, I don't think it holds up. The map size itself is okay, maybe a bit small, but it makes up for having very few hiding spots, and all the good ones are actually in like one area, so it's relatively easy to find and get everyone. But I can't say it deserves more than a C though, due to its lack of actually interesting interactables. Snowfall is a Christmas/winter map that's no longer in rotation due to a new map called Snowglobe being introduced this last winter holiday. It features a big house with small little outside areas to explore and learn. The map had a great gold quantity for its extremely small size, and now that I think about it, it's probably the smallest map of them all. Outside on both sides of the house are little igloos that will teleport you free of charge to the other one. It was really useful getting away in most scenarios, and was honestly my favorite part about the map. There was also an ice pond trap in the backyard that was sometimes successful, but could easily be avoided by jumping around it near some bushes instead of walking straight through it. The map was fun to navigate and had a lot of freedom in terms of where you could go. There were plenty of hiding spots that actually made sense too and weren't just places across the map in a corner. It made it more enjoyable to find people actually, hiding. You could go in like little rooms, you could go in some closets or wardrobes. It actually made sense and it felt like you were actually hiding. It was a fun map and I honestly miss it. I like it a lot more than Snowglobe, and I really hope they bring it back one day and maybe make it bigger too. For now, I think it'll land itself in B. Snowglobe is the next map that took Snowfall's spot last year. It features a town square with several houses surrounding the middle, all of which you can enter. The gold is sufficient enough and actually at a good rate. There are also little machines that will allow you to buy and place a snowman, which will start chucking snowballs at the nearest player. I can't tell you how annoying it is, though. Especially when you're playing a role that is integral, and your aim is thrown off by some random putting down a snow golem while you're trying to, help them. There can be a lot on the map at once, too, but thankfully it has its limits. There's also an ice pond trap similar to the last map on the farthest part next to the train. It's actually quite deadly, and there's like a single block in the pond that you can actually survive in if you feel like abusing it. It's broken as hell, but I have to admit I sit in there sometimes when I have to go AFK. You can't get out though, so, do it if you want. The map has a good amount of interactables basically, but the quality of them are more important than the actual quantity. I think the map size is good, and there are plenty of hiding spots around. I think overall it's a pretty average map for me, but to many I would assume it's actually probably higher up. So, Snowglobe for me is C. Nothing more, and nothing less. 4 more maps left, and the next one is Spooky Mansion. Spooky Mansion is the most recent map added for Halloween late last year. It's a gigantic mansion with 2 floors and a basement. The basement can be reached in 3 different ways. A teleporter on the left wing that allows access to every floor by push of a button. The staircase in the foyer, or an underground passage on the outside of the mansion's right wing. There are 2 traps on the upper and ground floors of the right wing that are basically just hallways that will have a roof fall on you and kill you. They're really easy to bait and avoid though, so just be careful. In the basement, there's a water trap that doesn't harm you, and it's kind of just there to slow you down. It's not entirely useful. There's also a secret passage on this map that basically is a big hallway in the back of the mansion on the ground floor, but it doesn't really add much. I'm not even sure how to open it up. The gold can be a bit better maybe, but most of the time I'm just waiting for the bow to be dropped on this map, so I can't comment on that. I think the size is perfect given a large mansion, and there's enough features to make it interesting. There are also some cool hiding spots in the basement behind paintings, and several closet hiding spots, like on Snowfall. I think it has its own charm, and I like it. I've played and read too many murder mystery novels that take place in mansions, so it has its own little, like, factor in it for me specifically. I think Spooky Mansion is B tier. Whoops, that's not B tier. Right, next map. Towerfall. Towerfall has always been a tricky one for me. I like the map size. I like the layout. It's a tall, crumbling tower with a couple of rooms and several floors. There are a couple of rooms to hide in and a secret room behind a painting as well. I think the gold is a bit too much at the top where everyone goes, but it's not awful. The part of the map that really hurts its position is the really stupid trap in the middle of the throne room. It's the only interactable on the map and anyone can use it, innocents being the worst offender. This makes about 20 to 40% of the innocent team dead before the murderers even do anything. I'm over exaggerating, but that's what it feels like. They kind of just fall in without thinking, and the innocents will gladly push the button on anyone regardless of their role. It's just really pointless killing, and it doesn't help the team out in most cases at all. Sometimes if you're lucky you can get a killer to fall in by accident, but it's really not worth half of the innocent team dying. The lower floor has a couple of places you can hide, and there's one really tricky part all the way at the bottom that features a small parkour section. It can get you away from the killer, but you have to be careful. It's a gamble for your life that relies on your parkour skills. If you fall, you're pretty much dead. No, you are dead. Sorry. It makes for some pretty intense getaway moments, I can say that for sure. I can't stress enough how awful that trap is, though, so, I'll have to say it brings it down a lot. And I'm going to put Towerfall in C tier. The next map is Transport version 2. And I pretty much just found out that the Transport I've been playing on for about a year was a rework. Transport is essentially 4 big rooms that are all connected via a circular hallway, and each room contains a shield generator that players can buy for gold. It gives 3 generators, and when used on the ground, a large wall of glass will appear, and it will block any players from moving forward in most cases for a limited time. If placed too far to the side, it can leave room for players to move through, so, don't do that. There's also a rapid transport station at every room as well that will lead you to an area of your choosing. It's probably actually a strategy to know the names of all the rooms, and it's totally something I'll have to get to learn eventually. The map is on the bigger side, but since active transport is a thing, you can swiftly move around with relative ease. Gold is on the shorter side, but it's manageable. There are not many places to hide in this map, and honestly, I don't see people hiding in them very often to begin with, so I wouldn't worry about it. I want to give this map a B, but it doesn't hold up in comparison to other maps for me, so for now, it'll get a C. If I could give it a high C, I would, but for now, it's just going to be a C. The last map to go over is Widow's Peak. Widow's Peak is a gigantic spider cave that is filled to the brim with spider webs, eggs, and dark rooms. But funnily enough, not a single spider. At least I don't think so. There might be one in like the big open room where you get cobwebs, but I don't remember. There's a small dirt trap that's easily avoidable in one room, a large open room that you can buy cobwebs from if you watch your step, and a collapsible bridge that really doesn't do much and isn't worth spending gold on in the first place. The cobwebs in that one room aren't really worth the buy, at least in my opinion. I've never seen them actually be used and change the outcome of a round in any noticeable way. I could be wrong. For some reason, a lot of people skip this map, but I think it's actually one of the better ones out there. The interactables aren't that great, to be honest, but I think the shape of the map and look is enough to make up for it. The size is pretty small, and you will get to know your way around easily, though, so have fun. Gold spawns are frequent and really good, and then there's a jump pad that will allow players to jump really high to reach this other part of the map. I mean, it's connected on the left and right, though, so you don't have to use the jump pad. And you can actually abuse the jump pad to let yourself jump up a second time to some places that weren't meant to be reached. They aren't that cool and don't really do much, but I like to use them every now and then and just sit and look at people and wait for the bow to drop. For me, I'm gonna say that Widow's Den is B tier. I think it could use some more interesting interactables, or just better ones overall. It would be higher. And with this map finish, that's all of the murder mystery maps as of today.